Alright, so in this video what we're going to learn to do is to make a basic nutrient solution. We're going to need some nutrients, and that is usually in our white jar, okay? And it's called Grow. And why it's called Grow is it's very good for vegetative plants in the vegetative stage of the plants, which means before flowering. And since we're basically growing basil and lettuce to start, this is perfect. And a couple of other things I want to call to your attention is on the front of the bottle, it has these numbers 312. That's the concentration of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the big three nutrients that your plants need. So it kind of gives you a ratio. So sometimes when you buy nutrient solution, those numbers might be bigger, and that just means it's more concentrated. Okay, but just a word of warning, this nutrient solution is very concentrated, and we have to be careful when we put it in because it's easy to put too much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill up my other little jar here with some tap water. Okay, and I've got my EC meter, so you just take off the bottom and you're going to hit the on-off button. Okay, and it should say zeros across the board because the bottom, the meter reader, is not in anything. And if you want to look at your temperature, it'll say it in the bottom, and it'll either say it in Celsius or Fahrenheit. If you push the button 2 times, it'll switch to the other degrees. So right now I've got it in Fahrenheit. Okay. Now it's got 2 modes for reading nutrients: ppm, which is parts per million, or EC. We want the one that says EC, and how you get into that position is just hit the shift button till it says EC at the very top of the screen. Okay, so you can see where it says EC at the top, temperature's down here at the bottom. Now let's just test our tap water to make sure nothing is bad with it. Tap water usually comes in at around 150 to 250, and the units that we're measuring is in microsiemens per centimeter. It's a measure of current, right? So my water says it's at 186, so that's actually pretty good. Most tap water will probably be around that. That just means it's mostly ion free. Because what's going on when I add my nutrients, our meter has a battery in it. So at the bottom, it's actually got 2 metal leads, and that's going to set up a voltage between those. So it's like a battery, and it's going to have a current go from the positive to the negative, and that's what we're measuring. And the meter converts that into electrical conductivity. So what we have to do is be really careful when we add the nutrients. So I've got my nutrient bottle, and I'm going to pour some out here into my spoon. Okay, if you don't have a spoon or something like that handy, you can just use the top, but pour just a very little bit in. Okay. Okay. So then when you notice, it goes down to the bottom and it doesn't really mix in, right? You can see it there on the bottom. So what we want to do is stir it up, right? Because you want it to dissolve. Because if you don't dissolve it, you're going to get a too low of a reading, and you're going to add more nutrients, and your nutrient level will go too high, and that can actually hurt your plants. Okay. So once you've got it stirred up, we're going to stick our meter back in, and notice I'm at 1.8. Okay. Most plants are happiest around 1. Okay, so I'm at 1800, which means it's 1.8 EC. So there's some things that you can do. You can add more water. Okay, and let's stir it up again. All right. There, and now I'm at 1.33. That's pretty good. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour out just a little bit more water. And I'm going to add more fresh water in. Okay. And if you add too much, this is the only thing you can do. This is why it's very careful to be cognizant and aware of how much your nutrients you're putting in. So now my nutrient solution is at 1.2. So that's actually pretty good for basil. Anytime that you're close to 1,000 or 1 EC, you're pretty good, right? You could be 900, you could be 1.2, you're pretty good. Basil likes it a little bit on the higher side, so 1 to 1.2 is good for basil. One thing that is also very important, notice that I'm just holding just the edge of the meter in the water. The meter is not 100% waterproof. Never hold the meter up where the water is over the buttons, because you will break your meter, because water will get inside the electronics because it's not 100% waterproof. So just be careful with your meter in that regard. But there we are, pretty good. And if we wanted to reduce it a little bit more, we would add more water. Or if you put way too much in, your only solution is to pour it out again and start over. So you want to avoid that. Okay, so that's how we make our nutrient solution.